All right, good morning. Good morning. What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Thank you very much for being here. Make sure these levels are proper. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for tuning in. Busy day today. We got a busy one today. Got a big game coming up tonight. Lakers and the Denver Nuggets at Denver. The start of an 8-game road trip. All right, I'm feeling this. I like this. Finally had a day to breathe yesterday. This should be fun. Tough, challenging road trip for the Lakers, but that's going to be fun. Coming off that national championship game last night, Miami and Indiana. How good was that game? Pistons and the Celtics. Anybody watching Pistons and the Celtics? Or was that just me? Might have just been me. Phenomenal game there, too. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that were also watching a little, at least keeping track of the Pistons and the Celtics. We got a lot to hit on today. Obviously, we'll get ready to preview this 8-game road trip for the Lakers. I got a lot that in just kind of the setup here of what we got going on. I have a guest today, so I'm going to try to kind of rush through some stuff here in the beginning so that we got plenty of time with our guests and we can get through all the comments and everything else. And then eventually we will get a solid hour in here talking some Lakers and some NBA basketball. Appreciate everybody being here. Please do me a favor if you don't mind. Can you subscribe to the channel? If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, we'll greatly appreciate that. If you want to become a member, we're going to do a member show on Friday. I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to do it before the show or after, but I'm leaning towards after. Just kind of kicking back, relaxing, doing a member show. Probably at 10 a.m. on Friday is what I'm targeting. So if you're not a member and you want to be a member, please feel free to join. Cheers to everybody as well, whatever you're drinking. I got my second cup of coffee that I'm working on at the moment. Finally talked to a merch guy yesterday. So I think that process is going to start. Not yet, but like getting there. And then I can be holding a coffee mug that's got my stuff branded on it. All right, let's get a quick preview of what we got going on for the show today. And then I will get to these comments here in just a second. So thank you very much for being here. And as always, I appreciate you guys supporting the channel, supporting the show, and hopefully the content is exactly what you guys are looking for. Hopefully this is a great way for you to start your morning. 8-game road trip for the Lakers. We'll find out a lot about the Lakers over this next 8 games because this is the closest they have been to being healthy in a long time. And I know they're still missing a key piece in Austin Reeves, but they got a lot of players back. So let's see if the Lakers can try to take advantage of that. A little bit later in the show, I'll ask what will make this a successful road trip. I got to be honest with you. I'm not setting the bar very high, but I got an idea, at least for me, what will make this a successful road trip. And I'll say what I said again. The bar isn't set very high. So I think it's a very, very realistic bar for the Lakers to hit in regards to this 8-game road trip. Lakers and the Nuggets. Is it just me, or does this game just feel like a big game? And Denver, by the way, if you want to talk about complaining about injuries, I don't think anybody wants to hear anything from the Lakers right now because Denver has been demolished with injuries for the most part, for a good portion of the season. And they're not just missing a role player or two. They're missing the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. What was that? He had that hyperextension of his knee, and it came from his own teammate, but eventually it wasn't anything major. He was going to miss 4 weeks. I saw yesterday when I was doing a little bit of research on where the Lakers are and this game coming up against the Denver Nuggets that he's back to some basketball activities. I'll wait to ask my guest that who covers the Denver Nuggets, but big game for the Lakers. And I think if there's one thing we can all agree on watching the Lakers this season, they're all over the place. They are, if there's ever a team that can use some positive momentum and they could build off of the game they had against the Toronto Raptors, it's the Lakers. I mean, they desperately need it. The problem with the Lakers is every single game they play, I got no idea what the hell to expect. So we'll talk a little bit about the game tonight, some momentum, midseason grades. Yesterday, ESPN put out the midseason grades. I'll be honest with everybody. ESPN was kind of ruthless on the Lakers in this one. I mean, I get it. There's some areas of Lakers basketball not all that great, but how they graded the Lakers through the midseason was more critical than I thought. I wouldn't grade the Lakers that bad. I'll get into that. It will kind of show these different tiers and where the Lakers are in regards to that. Latest on the NBA trade deadline, I got to be honest with everybody. I'm going to kind of aggregate 3-4 different things that we can have a conversation about, but it's also quiet. I think on the Laker front, which is fine. I mean, I think again, as we get a little bit closer, we're still a couple weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. So it's not like this thing is coming up tomorrow. Anything can happen at any point, but it is quiet. I will tell you, I will kind of list off the latest of the NBA trade deadline and how it pertains to the Lakers. So we'll do that. Bennett Durando, who I've never had a conversation with before, but does cover the Denver Nuggets for the Denver Post. Very, very kind with his time. He's going to join the show. I got him slated for 8:30. So that's the plan, to have Bennett come on so he could give us. There's certain teams around the NBA that I would like a professional from the other side. Denver's one of those teams because I've told you guys this before. If they're healthy, I think they're as good as anybody, and I think they could definitely compete for an NBA championship. If the playoffs started today, it'd be Lakers Denver, number 3 versus number 6. That's the last thing I think you want if you're the Lakers. But Bennett will join the show here in a little bit. And then a couple things around the NBA, and then just the awful, awful stuff from Jimmy Butler yesterday, tearing his ACL, and kind of the impact that's going to have on the NBA trade deadline on the Golden State Warriors, who are, I think, sitting at the number 8 spot. We're starting to play some good basketball, and just an awful, awful injury in regards to that. Let me take a look at a couple of comments. We're going to get the show started right after that. Let's see what we got here. Palenka, too busy shopping for jackets. Jackets can't do anything to improve the Lakers. Well, if we're going to go on that, I will say that his jacket game, it's not bad. You know what I mean? If we're going to just focus specifically on the jackets, the jacket game ain't bad. Jimmy Butler career may be over, ACL tear at 37. Is that how old Jimmy Butler is? I need to confirm this. And you might be right, but I'm just going to confirm it real quick. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. You never want to see a player like that. 36, he'd be 37 by the time next season starts. Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, let's see what else we have here. Spurs versus Rockets. Which team lose is more important tonight? I think it's better for the Lakers, for the Rockets to lose, because I don't think they're catching the Spurs. So there's a little bit of cushion between the Lakers and the Spurs. Lakers and the Rockets, that's more of a realistic one. The Lakers can actually stay in front of the Houston Rockets. So that's what I would tell you. Let me see if I could get one more in here. Let's see. Slee. Ayton, when fed, has been an outstanding player for us. Luka needs to force feed him. Otherwise, he's dead weight. Hey, listen, I'm also the one yesterday, probably standing on an island, saying that Luka needs to shoot less and try to find guys like DeAndre Ayton. So you don't have to tell me about that. I'm with you on that. So I'm definitely with you in that regard. Okay, let's get the show started. Again, I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out on the channel on a consistent basis. So thank you for supporting the show. 8-game road trip tonight. What do we kind of, if I throw out some expectations here and we can kind of walk through, we don't have to necessarily do it together, but if I give you the 8 games that the Lakers are playing and the teams are going to be facing on this 8-game road trip, and we kind of know the Lakers, the up and down season that they're having, nobody's going to be too shocked here. If you're on this channel on a Tuesday, January 20th at 8:10 a.m., then I have a pretty good idea that you're either a Laker fan or an NBA fan, or just, kind of enjoy hanging out and listening to the content. So I don't need to tell everybody how up and down the Lakers are. But this is the 8-game road trip that the Lakers have. And when I say my bar is set low, I do mean that. But let's kind of walk through real quick what this 8-game road trip looks like. They got Denver tonight, who's missing Nikola Jokic, Christian Brown. Who else is missing? Jonas Valanciunas, Cameron Johnson, 4 key players. I mean, if I'm right, I think 3 of those guys are starters. If they got Christian Brown in the starting lineup, which I think they have had him in the starting lineup, that's 4 guys that are out, key rotational players, the best player in the world, three starters for the Denver Nuggets. Let me keep moving here. You got the Clippers coming up on Thursday. Adam Osland, by the way, who does the pre and post for the Clippers, will join the show on Thursday, so he'll be nice to come on. You guys have seen him come on the show before, so he's done some work with us in the past. Also does all his work over at AM 570. Obviously, my partnership with the channel on AM 570. Clippers. I don't know if Kawhi's going. I do know that he left that road trip that the Clippers were in the middle of because he had some knee inflammation. So again, something to keep in mind here. What does it say? Kawhi will not play during the final two games of the Clippers road trip. So we'll see if he plays against the Lakers coming up on a Thursday. But just again, something to keep in mind. And Clippers, kind of, to be honest with you, one of the hotter teams in the entire NBA. The Dallas Mavericks coming up on Saturday. I don't know what the hell the Dallas Mavericks are, but I do know that they've won 4 of their last 5 games. And yesterday, they absolutely demolished the New York Knicks at the Madison Square Garden, and all the Knicks fans were booing the Dallas Mavericks. Every team that I'm mentioning here has holes, but there's kind of a little bit more context with all these teams as well. That's 3. Then you got the Chicago Bulls. Then you got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then you got the Washington Wizards. Then you got the New York Knicks, and then you close it up against a game in a game against the Brooklyn Nets. That's your 8 games right there on this road trip. Couple of them versus the Western Conference, and then they close out the last 5 games all against the East. Obviously, one of those games being in LA. If I just had to just kind of give a number here of, all right, what are you hoping for on this road trip? There's some winnable games in here. And at this point, Lakers are healthy enough now where there's going to be less excuses in the sense of, hey, Ayton's out or Rui's out or Ayton and Rui are out. Austin Reeves, we obviously know, is out. I'm not going to be greedy at all here. Can you go 4-4 in this 8-game road trip? Can you keep your head above water in this 8-game road trip? Here's the crazy thing. If I just went against some of the teams that they should beat, I'll just, again, point out some of the teams they should beat. They should beat Dallas. They should beat Washington. They should beat Brooklyn. That's 3 games right there where they should win based off of schedule, standings, guys that are injured, guys are healthy. Then you got 5 other games that are left on the schedule. And I'm just throwing this out there. Can you not get a win against the Chicago Bulls, or can you not pick another? I'm not asking for much here. I'm just saying that based off of the Lakers and what they've shown us this year and the up and down and kind of this roller coaster of a season where sometimes they look great, other times they look awful. Am I asking for too much for the Lakers to go 4-4? That by the time they get back to Crypto.com Arena, which is going to be on Thursday, February 5th, which is the day of the trade deadline, can they just have walked back still 9 games over 500? Hopefully getting Austin Reeves back soon. Hopefully having made a deal that doesn't just make sense for today and tomorrow, but also makes sense for the future around Luka and Austin Reeves. Is that too much to ask for? Now, I've kind of shot myself in the foot when I've talked Lakers basketball before, in the sense that maybe I get a little too optimistic. Maybe I set expectations that the Lakers aren't able to meet. But that does not sound like I'm asking for too much. And I understand as the road trip kind of continues, the tougher it's going to be, the longer they're away from home, the less they're sleeping in their own beds and everything else. Okay, that's fine. But I don't think asking the Lakers to go 4-4 on this 8-game road trip is too much to ask for. And I think we're going to find out a lot about the Lakers. Luka said this about the upcoming road trip. We're getting paid to do this. Should it be an excuse? I love it. So he's obviously looking forward to the road trip. And for the Lakers, they're going to have certainly some tough games in the mix there. And they're also going to have some games that I think are winnable. 4-4. That sounds like somebody who's very reasonable. I like to think of myself as a very reasonable man. 4-4. Here's what somebody says, right? What are you drinking 4-4? I don't know which way you're talking about. Too optimistic or too pessimistic? I'll tell you what I'm drinking. Black coffee, brother. Just straight diesel fuel this morning. That's what I'm drinking. 4-4 sounds right. Why would 4-4 sound crazy? All right, let's get one of these in. I'm gonna go out of my. I'm gonna go out of. I'm gonna take the chance here and say this might be a Clippers fan. Clippers gonna dog walk y'all. Blue collar team, 6th on defense, 3rd on offense in the league in free throws month of December. Clippers have been playing good ball. They've been playing good basketball. It'll be a tough game against the Clippers. We'll see what the Lakers come up with on Thursday, but I can't go that far ahead right now. I got to now jump all the way down to. I got to jump all the way down to this game tonight. I say 5-3. All right, let me get another one in here. 6-2 record. I'll say this, and I don't have to. You guys can put in. Here's the one thing I will tell you, which kind of tells you a lot about the Lakers in general. I wouldn't be surprised if they went 4-4. I wouldn't be surprised if they went 3-5. I wouldn't be surprised if they went 5-3. Any other record I'd be surprised about. Like if they went 6-2, it'd be like, damn, they just started balling out on a road trip, an 8-game road trip. If they went 2-6, that'd be obviously a colossal failure for the Lakers. It would be awful. But I think anywhere in that 3-5 to 5-3 range is probably where the Lakers are going to fall. And you're hoping if the average is 4-4, then you obviously walk away from that and take it. What's interesting about the Lakers right now, and I'm going to kind of start getting into this, how this game tonight against the Nuggets kind of sets the tone for the Lakers. But what's interesting for me as I see them walk into this 8-game road trip, there is a little bit of, well, what the hell am I going to get every night? That's the part that is always a little bit confusing with the Lakers, and I think that just kind of comes with the territory. They had a really, really nice game against the Toronto Raptors. They really did. And everybody performed and everybody played well and everybody played hard and they rolled up their sleeves and they played defense. I think they only gave up what they give up against Denver or against Toronto. I'm drawing a blank here as far as how many points that they gave up. They gave up 93 points against the Toronto Raptors. The question is going to be for the Lakers, are you that team or are you a team that giving up 135 against Charlotte or 132 against Portland? The problem with the Lakers is every time I feel like they face a little bit of adversity, they fall flat on their face. So they're going to get a little bit of that in Denver. And I'll also say this before I start talking about the game against the Denver Nuggets. That's going to be part of your road trip as well. Is the squad kind of pulling together more or are they pulling further apart? So there's a lot that I think we're going to learn about the Lakers over these next couple of weeks that it's kind of ironic. It's going to land us by the time they come back to crypto. We will be past the trade deadline. So that's it. Whatever the Lakers have come February 5th is pretty much going to be their team. Maybe there's somebody available in the buyout market or whatever the case is, but that's pretty much going to be their team the entire way. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of pans out. Okay, Lakers and the Nuggets tonight. I want to get into a couple things in regards to that. I got a couple comments that I want to read as well. Before I do so, shout out to Harris Resort SoCal. I'm all set. I'm going to be doing my morning show from there a week from this Friday. So I got a couple things planned, getting out to the resort. I highly, highly encourage everybody, harrissocal.com. If you're looking for a getaway, just go to the website. It's a phenomenal way to kind of book one of those staycations. They'll be competitive from a rate perspective, over 1,000 luxurious rooms. It's one of the nicest places you could stay in Southern California. Very family friendly. If you want to go there with friends, if you want to go, it literally accommodates everybody. I think they got one of the best restaurants in all SoCal in Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, which I will be eating at a week from Thursday. I'm looking forward to that. And then, like I mentioned, entertainment perspective, they got a really, really good show coming up here. Adam Santino, who is a really funny comedian. I'm going to try to get to that show when I'm out there. But they got a list of great entertainers that are out there. And if you want to kind of be strategic here and not go pay for a round-trip flight and the headache of going to an airport, do a staycation over at Harris Resort SoCal. So harrissocal.com is where you can go and book your next trip. Okay, so do you know if the playoffs started today? Lakers sitting at number 6 seed. Denver sitting at number 3. If the playoffs started today, This is your first round matchup. Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. I don't think anybody wants to see that matchup, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation for the Lakers. If I'm being honest, I think this would be kind of a nightmare scenario for the Lakers to have to go up against Denver in the first round of the playoffs. Now, I know it's not apples to apples. I know the Lakers, when they lose 2 series in a row, playoff series to the Denver Nuggets, Darvin Ham is your head coach. Anthony Davis is on this team. Obviously, LeBron a couple years younger. It's not apples to apples. The team is completely different. But does that not sound like this is the danger of being the number 6 seed, which is where the Lakers are, and really where I think they're going to have to fall into place is that 4 or 5. And it's not like they can't do that. They definitely can, but they obviously got to start winning some games here. Here's the danger of the number 6 seed, the number 7 seed. I don't think they would fall back to the number 8 spot, especially now with the injury to Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors. But here's the danger. The danger is, and it doesn't even if you end up in number 4 or number 5 seed, doesn't mean you're getting out of the first round. But the danger of being in the number 6 spot, if this is where the Lakers were by the end of the season, if we just said, hey, you're at the halfway point of the year, let's just pretend it's mid-April, the season just ended, you're 6, Denver's number 3. The likelihood of you getting out of just the first round is very, very difficult. You got to deal with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, who's been a Laker killer and just been a playoff performer. Champions everywhere. Aaron Gordon, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the NBA. And then they just got a lot of other pieces that fit and make sense. Champions that have kind of rolled up their sleeves and found a way to be successful in the NBA. So I'm really looking forward to tonight's game. But when I look at the big picture for the Lakers, this is kind of a danger zone. I don't think you want to be in this number 6 spot. I do think they got to do everything they can. If you got to pick and choose, if I'm picking and choosing which teams I want to go up in the first round, I'd much rather have Minnesota. I'd much rather have Houston at this point as well. They got some holes, and that team is not, a perfect roster, but a healthy Denver team or a healthy San Antonio team or a healthy OKC team. I don't need to tell everybody here how many problems those teams would give the Lakers. Not to say that these other teams that are either in front of the Lakers or behind, it's not to say Phoenix can't give the Lakers problems or Minnesota can't give the Lakers problems, but this is why these games start becoming important, because you start looking at the standings, and yes, we still got a ways to go before the season ends, but Lakers are trending in the wrong direction. And either they're able to kind of get their hands back on that steering wheel again and start going in the right direction, or the standings are going to be brutal. You're going to have a very, very tough first-round matchup like it would be against Denver, and you'd be underdogs. You'd obviously be starting the series on the road, and next thing you know, you could, before we even get to May 1st, the Lakers season could be over. So that's what they kind of got in front of them, and obviously in regards to the road trip, this is going to be the first game, and they're going to be taking on a tough Denver team. So there was ESPN did these midseason grades, and they were rating all 30 teams at the halfway mark. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see this. I just looked at it this morning. Yesterday, I had too much kind of going on to add this to the show. But I want to show everybody, and I'll share my screen here with everybody. I'm going to show you guys where they put the Lakers. And I thought, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, and I got no problem being critical about the Lakers, I thought ESPN was wildly critical about the Lakers. But let's take a look at this. So here is the NBA midseason grades. We're 41 games in, so 41 games left to go. Tonight will be the start of the second half of the season for the Lakers and many of these other NBA teams. Look where they put the Lakers. I'm going to have to scroll down for a while. I'm just, warning everybody here. We're going to be scrolling for a second here before we get to the Lakers. But let me show you guys where they put them, and then we can talk about it. They gave the Celtics an A. They gave the Pistons an A. All right. By the way, anybody have any issues with that? I don't. They gave Phoenix an A. Got no issue with that as well. The Phoenix Suns kind of out of nowhere. A lot of people didn't think much about the Phoenix Suns. They all of a sudden have an identity, and they look like a team that could be a tough out in the first round. San Antonio, Denver, OKC. All right, here's Houston. Houston higher than I thought they would give them. Houston was expected to be top 3 in the Western Conference anyways. To be frank with you, I think they're playing a little bit below their means. Okay. Got some other teams in there, Sixers, Blazers. I just want to keep scrolling down until we actually get to the Lakers. Okay. All right. Here's some B's here. Now we're in the C range. Keep going. Memphis, Orlando, Utah, Indiana. Keep going. Here's the Lakers. Lakers midseason grade is a C minus. Listen, I know the Lakers are not exactly the best team on the defensive side of the ball. I know they have their fair share of issues. I know the point differential is not exactly something that the Lakers should pump their chest about or pump their chest on. But damn, they're 9 games over 500, a C minus. Preseason projection for wins 46.5, current projection 44.7. Now you might say, what the hell are they talking about? Lakers, they won 25 games. They're halfway through the season. Then wouldn't they just win 25 more games? They're at 50. I think the way this is all based and calculated is based on where the Lakers are defensively, probably looking at the last month of the season as well, where they're trending, and not just kind of taking the exact total of the 25 in the first half of the season. But Lakers kind of got ran over, if I'm being honest with you. That's a tough grade for the Lakers. I don't think they were a C minus. Not to tell you that I thought the Lakers were perfect, but it sounds like that one was a lot more critical of the Lakers than I would have been. But that tells you a little bit of how ESPN and some of the people around the NBA view the Lakers. And I got no issues with being critical about the Lakers. I think you obviously have to. But that one seemed like you would think the Lakers were a 500 team or maybe a couple games below 500 with how tough they rank the Lakers. Okay, I want to take a look at some comments here. You know, I mentioned to everybody we got a guest coming in at 8:30. So with that being said, I'm going to hold off on a couple of things we can do after the guest. But what I will do is take a look at some comments and we'll take our time with that. All right. Lakers have a tough time beating good teams. I can see why ESPN ranked them a C minus. You know, I was listening to something yesterday, and I think if I'm correct here, 15 of the Lakers' 16 losses are by double digits. 15 of the Lakers' 16 losses are by double digits. That probably has a lot to do with it as well. They want to see, okay, how do you do against the elite? And if you're struggling against the elite, then we got to make sure that we kind of put you properly. If I said the Lakers were struggling against bad teams, but they were beating up on good teams, you'd rather have that because you know that the good teams are the teams you're going to be obviously facing in the postseason. All right, let's get some more in here. Phoenix not going to win anything. I don't disagree with you, but the Phoenix Suns went from a team that looked like they're in complete disarray. They got some of the worst contracts in the NBA. They have absolutely no direction. And within one offseason, they changed their coach. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal gone. And now all of a sudden they got an identity. They play hard. They play defense. They got a stud in Devin Booker. I agree. I don't think, I mean, I'd be surprised if they won one round in the playoffs just based on where they are in the standings. Okay, let's say they get a 6 seed or a 7 seed. Do you think they're beating San Antonio in a 7-game set? Do you think they're beating the Denver Nuggets in a 7? I don't. But here's what I would tell you. What I would say is they're kind of building back in the same direction, and that's all you can really ask for in their situation. But I don't think anybody's arguing that they are going to be winning around in the playoffs, but they're certainly moving in the right direction. Let's get another one here. Jamal Murray has never been All-Star, but after 20 games, the entire sports world anointed Austin Reeves an All-Star spot. Shaking my head. Yeah, it's a good question for me to ask the guest because, to be honest with you, I've had a difficult time understanding how Jamal Murray's never been an All-Star, but maybe that's just because his individual numbers during the regular season are not All-Star numbers. But damn, his performances in the playoffs. If you told me, hey, you can be a player in the NBA and you could be a multiple-time All-Star but has no true moments in the playoffs, or you can be a player that delivers in the playoffs, but you're never an all-star. I want Jamal Murray's resume. Because when I think of Jamal Murray, I think of a champion. I think of a dude that's just in the playoffs as clutch as it can get. And a lot of Laker fans obviously know what I'm referring to when I'm talking about that. He's been incredible. He's been amazing. But that's a good question. That's one that I could hit on. All right, let me get another one here real quick, and then we're gonna have our guests join us. Kevin Pelton, ESPN, are known Lakers haters. I don't know about that. I mean, let's be honest here for a quick second. Lakers do get their fair share of love and attention. I don't know if I completely agree with that one, but like I said, midseason grades, they're looking at all these teams. There's probably a lot of different things that come into play. Lakers a C minus, which with that's the piece of the Lakers. That's a perfect example of the record is a little deceptive. 9 games over 500. If I told you before the season started, you're at the halfway point, you're 25-16. I think a lot of Laker fans are taking that in the Western Conference. But you got to read that fine print with the Lakers, and there's a lot more that comes into play here other than just the 9 games over 500. All right, I did mention we have a guest today, very, very kind to join us and very appreciative of his time. Let's welcome in Bennett Durando, who covers the Denver Nuggets for the Denver Post. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Alan.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And, it's funny. I was telling the audience that there are certain teams that when I have a guest on, I have so much curiosity on. And I'm not watching the Denver Nuggets every single night or anything like that. But Denver, to me, I thought the offseason that they had, kind of grabbing all these pieces that it felt like makes sense, making the trade of Michael Porter Jr. And I know they're dealing with a ton of injuries, but I thought Denver was, okay, give OKC the reins because they are the Oklahoma City Thunder and defending champions, but I didn't think Denver was too far behind. I just spent some time talking about halfway through the Lakers season. Can you update us on what the first half of the season of the Denver Nuggets has looked like?
It hasn't looked exactly how they've expected, but the Nuggets feel pretty happy with where they were at just coming out of that point at 28-13, despite playing a decent chunk of the season without 2 starters and then 3 and then 4. Really, they've played the last 11 games without a traditional center, with both Jokic and Valanciunas hurt. I think that's kind of gone a little under the radar. The fact that not only are you missing sort of your engine of offense and sort of the key cog that makes everything happen in the half court, but just guys who can rebound, like you're missing your 7-footers who can just box out and be consistently reliable to get rebounds. So that first year coach David Allen, he joked the other day when sort of asked himself to evaluate the first half of the season that he's liked how all 4 teams have played, all 4 versions of the Nuggets that they've had to kind of rely on. I think when Jokic went down in particular, everyone started doing some standings math, thinking, okay, how far are they going to fall in a month, maybe more without him? And lo and behold, they were a game back of second place, sitting there in third at the time. And they went into the halfway point of the season, a half game ahead of San Antonio. I think they might be back in third now after the loss to Charlotte the other night. But for them to have basically held steady for this 3-week stretch so far without the 3-time MVP, they're pretty content with kind of the way that they've been malleable through some of the unexpected adversity with a guy who's considered one of the more durable superstars in the game.
So just to kind of play off that, because I think that will help us for tonight's game as well. How have they been able to do that? And I'm with you. I think one of the things that I mentioned, and for a lot of Laker fans that are on this channel, we're looking at the NBA standings. We're saying to ourselves, all right, hey, Jokic is out. Well, I'm just going to assume Denver's going to start falling back. And maybe this is, and Lakers have had their fair share of injuries as well. Not 4 starters. And again, they've had players that have been in and out of the lineup. Austin Reeves still gone, but they're now at a point where everyone is back other than Austin Reeves and Adu Thero, who's their rookie, which really hasn't played for the most part all season long. How have they been able to sustain? And I know there's some injuries tonight, but looks like Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, some of these other guys are available. What has been the kind of key for Denver to keep their head above water?
Yeah, they've kind of had to adapt their styles within each game depending on how they need to win. Obviously, when Jokic is healthy, they're playing uh, a ton like off the elbows, this sort of high post offense. It's funny, like it's David Allen's been in charge of the offense for the Nuggets for a number of years, but now kind of higher exposure for him being at the helm of the whole thing as a head coach instead of a lead assistant. But the high post sort of offense through this great playmaking center, it reminds you a little bit of Rick Adelman's Sacramento Kings back in the day, right? So like this kind of beautiful game, this ball movement, body movement thing is what they tend to rely on. They haven't been able to do that quite as much. They can do a little bit of sort of the elbow type offense with these kind of split actions and initiating through Aaron Gordon because he's a pretty good playmaker for a power forward. And obviously a very high IQ player himself. So like you can do some stuff that's kind of reminiscent of their normal scheme with Gordon, but it's been a little bit more ISO ball. It's been a little bit more pick and roll. It hasn't been kind of the kind of flashy, beautiful offense in the half court that we've come to expect from them over the years. Obviously, it helps that you have Jamal Murray having an all-star season, like best first half of the season, at least for him easily in his career, kind of had developed a reputation as a slow starter. And it was the only thing that was holding him back from some of the accolades that I think would go with kind of the regard in which he's held generally around the league, right? As far as a talent. So you have Murray just playing hyper efficient basketball, playing really smart with his decision-making out of double teams. They've had to rely a lot on like creating basketball advantage with expecting teams to blitz him around screens and play 4-on-3 behind it. And then Peyton Watson has just been this sudden revelation with the ball for the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's funny. He's a guy who for his first 3 years in the league with Denver, like defense has always been kind of the thing that was supposed to be his calling card. The Nuggets have shown him, have implored him to watch Jaden McDaniels film to kind of like become that kind of defender like him over the years. Offensively, it's been where can we put him on the floor that's going to make him work? Can he be in the dunker spot, kind of like an Aaron Gordon light? Can you put him in the corner and turn him into an effective 3-and-D kind of guy? He's been really good spot up shooting from the corners, honestly. Can they let him slash from the wings? Now they've even had him play like small ball kind of center de facto at certain points to roll to the rim just because he's an athletic guy who can play above the rim. But now him playing with the ball, just kind of seizing an opportunity in a contract year for him. Obviously you have like he's just been perfectly opportunistic with the situation. He's been pretty clear-eyed about the fact that he knows it's a finite amount of time that he's going to have this level of freedom, and he's played with a huge amount of confidence and opportunism within that kind of finite window that he's had. So they've been able to make things work offensively through those two a lot. And then defensively, like a little bit more switchable lineups, that sort of stuff. The rebounding has been ugly. Like they just got out rebounded by 30 or 20. I think they got out rebounded by 25 to Charlotte, scored on second chance points again by double digits, something like that the other day. It's been consistent, like that being kind of a weak point for them over this stretch, as one would expect, but they're kind of finding ways to play around that with, some gritty half court defense with the switching and then just finding a way offensively.
I'm curious if I look big picture. I was mentioning when I started the show, and you were right that the Denver is at the number 3 spot right now. If the playoffs started today, it'd be Lakers Nuggets, and let's just assume for a quick second here, of course, right? I mean, good for Denver. I don't know how good that is for the Lakers, but let's just assume for a second here that we fast forward to mid-April and it's Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. When Denver has been healthy, when the Nuggets have had all their pieces and their players and everything else, how how elite has it looked? How, when you look at, if just looking at a playoff run, and I think, for the Lakers, they got a lot to figure out, hopefully between now and the trade deadline. Obviously, they got to be healthy. There's a lot of question marks with the Lakers. Are there as many questions? Is there a lot of questions with the Denver Nuggets, or when they have had opportunities to be healthy, do you kind of know exactly what you have? And what is that ceiling, do you believe?
Offensively, they absolutely know what they have. They're one of the most efficient half-court offenses in history. So when they are healthy and whole, even when they were missing a couple of starters, but still kind of finding patchwork guys to put around Jokic, their offense was just clicking at a pretty ridiculous level. So that is not even slightly a concern for anyone in that building, I don't think. In particular, if it was a Lakers matchup with some of the defensive issues that the Lakers have, I don't think that scoring would be a problem for the Nuggets in that series. The question marks are at the defensive end.
Lakers are top 26 in defense. I don't know why you're pointing that. I mean,
point.
if you're top 26, that's the goal. The goal every year is top 26.
That's what I always hear NBA coaches saying. For the Nuggets, the question is defensively as well. They started the year very solid defensively. They were second in the league for about a 2-week stretch, like very early on. And then they lose Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon. And those are the first two sort of dominoes that fell in this series of injuries for them. They're the two kind of ideal plus defenders for that starting lineup. You're trying to protect Jokic as much as possible. They brought in Jared Dudley basically to run their defense and try to find different creative schemes this year. They've played a lot more zone. They've played kind of some matchup zone. They've gotten pretty creative with it. What's interesting to me is, were those first 2 weeks real or a fluke? It's such a small sample size that I don't really know yet. And it's hard to know, even with Gordon and Brown kind of having been eased back in a little bit recently, because they haven't been quite 100%. They've been on minutes restrictions. Brown has been in and out of the lineup, as we've seen him miss a few games in a row again right now. They've had some nice shooting luck from their opponents. That factored in early in the season as well. You can argue that they were playing smart defense and that they were kind of funneling the ball where they wanted to on the floor. They were kind of they were generating defensively the shots that they wanted their opponents to take for the most part. And so you make your own luck a little bit in this league, obviously. So there's an element to that. But if we see them whole again and 100%, will the defense revert immediately for a 3-week stretch back to, oh, wow, this looks like a top 5 defense right now? Or is it going to be more of what it's been for the 2 months since then, which has been generally a disaster, sometimes better than others. Like I said, they've been able to switch a little bit more recently without Jokic and Valanciunas, and that's kind of like that. Playing a switch-all lineup helped them in the fourth quarter of a really impressive win at Boston a couple weeks ago, when they just went to that for the last 6, 7, 8 minutes, and it allowed them to hold on. So, I'm curious to see if there's a little bit of a spike in their defense at some point, or if those first couple weeks were a little bit of a fluke. It's just really hard for me to say right now.
I always like asking someone like yourself who's covering a different team, but obviously has a pulse for what's going on around the NBA. What is your kind of perception of the Lakers? Somebody that's not watching the Lakers on a night in, night out basis, but they're always a story. There's always, obviously conversations about the Los Angeles Lakers. I think a lot of people are curious what they're going to be able to do between now and the trade deadline. How much are you building? How much of a move is it to try to help now? How much of it is it just hold on to picks and try to regroup in the offseason? What is your perception of the Lakers as you kind of follow the NBA? And of course, your day-to-day is with the Denver Nuggets.
I haven't gotten to watch a ton of them, so I'm not going to, I want to be careful, but big picture, I feel like they should be better than they have been. I think I'm pretty sure their net rating is still under 0, right? Like they're in the red. right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of funny. They might rank one spot below Charlotte, which was Denver's last opponent. And the Lakers and Hornets
Oh,
basically have inverted.
Charlotte dropped 135, 130. Well,
Yeah,
I think 135 on the Lakers within the last week or so.
yeah. I mean, they just cooked the Nuggets the other day. The
Mm-hmm.
Nuggets retired on a back-to-back, but so was Charlotte, and they came in and they were up 20 by the end of the first quarter of that game. So
Wow.
um, it's been interesting to me watching JJ Redick try to kind of figure out kind of the emotions of getting through the season as a head coach. And it has
Mm.
reminded me a little bit of Michael Malone, just in the way that they are wired as people and as competitors. Um, Redick has laid into that team after games on several occasions, which uh, was something that Malone would do. And frankly, that was something that I think was maybe good for the Nuggets, that type of personality early in this core's window. And a large part of the reason that Malone ended up fired was that
Mm.
the roster was more mature. They had kind of been there, done that a little bit, and they were kind of tired of hearing that approach. They wanted a more steady sort of mentality from their head coach in terms of approaching the marathon that is an 82 game season. And I don't think that has to reflect poorly on Michael Malone as a human being, because he's just wired a certain way where when he doesn't feel like there's anything that they can do defensively and the rotations aren't there and the help defense isn't working out and all this stuff, that he kind of can't help but that be his reaction. It's been interesting to see Redick as a first-time head coach in the league
Mm.
kind of encounter his competitiveness up against some of those same issues for the Lakers, and kind of go through the motions of his frustration about it and try to handle what is an 82 game season, and it's
By
been
the way,
interesting.
that's been talked about. I mean, there has been a little bit from, I know a lot of reporters out there that cover the Lakers day to day, beat writers, things like that. They say that if there's one thing JJ's got to do a better job of is balancing his emotions. You can't have certain the risk in doing that. And I like the example of Michael Malone, but the risk of doing that is, does your message start losing its value? Right? If you say the same thing and it's like, here's a game on a Tuesday night that you lose or whatever the case is, does it start losing its weight? So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to me. Adelman, a large part of that hire for the Nuggets was um, kind of his. I've said this before, but his sort of Pacific Northwest personality
Mm,
in relation to Malone's Northeast,
mm.
Queens guy personality, and Adelman has really only called out his team for effort once this season. Um,
All right, looks like we lost Bennett. Looks like we lost him here. Looks like we lost him here. All right, I'm going to give Bennett a second to see if we can get him back. If we can't, all good. I only had one other question left, so I mean, there's timing wise, we could be okay. But good stuff there from Bennett. Really, really good stuff from him. Obviously covers the Denver Nuggets for the Denver Post. The only question I had left was Aaron Gordon. I had an Aaron Gordon question, but that was it right there. But good stuff right there. We got a good 16, 17 minutes from Bennett. So good stuff for him coming on. We'll call it there on the interview portion of things, but great stuff from him. Yeah, listen, I will tell you this, and I always like getting the perspective of somebody else that's not covering the Lakers day to day. What is their perception of the team? I did that with Bill Orm. He was on last week of the Blazers, and obviously now Bennett doing it here on this in this case as well. But good stuff there from him. Certainly a good conversation. And Lakers got Denver tonight. I'm excited to see Lakers and Denver tonight. I'm excited to see this game, this matchup. Denver's got a ton of injuries, but they also got a lot of winners. I mean, I think Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are both winners. So we'll see how the Lakers obviously start this road trip, and it's going to be a good test for them, a really good test. Not easy playing in Denver, and I don't care who the hell is playing. I mentioned this after I saw that Charlotte blew out the Denver Nuggets. I was like, does that help the Lakers? Does it hurt the Lakers? Probably hurts them, because I would imagine Denver's more focused tonight. They understand this is a game against a team in the Western Conference that's a little bit desperate as well. You wake up because it's the Lakers. You got Luka Doncic. There's a lot of reasons to get excited for this game. So I think the place is going to be rocking tonight. And it's going to be up to the Lakers to kind of match whatever energy Denver brings. All right, we got a lot of comments I want to get into. I still want to spend time on the trade deadline. Got a couple other things as well in regards to the NBA. So we'll do all that. And then we will go from there. So let's do this before I get into the NBA trade deadline, and we'll start walking on to some of these other things. I want to give a shout out to one of our partners here. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. I've mentioned this to you guys before. Serious injury, wrongful death, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. If you just go to the website and, I've mentioned this a number of different times, get a free consultation. It's not a headache. It's not something you got to get overly concerned about. I would get overly concerned, but I would also know that if I have one of the best injury attorneys in the entire state of California, who has been a very, very loyal and somebody that you definitely understand from a perspective of someone willing to help, someone who's got a great reputation, just go to the website, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Again, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. You go to that website, get a free consultation. He'll be able to help. So hopefully you never need him, but if you do need him, someone to keep in mind in regards to his ability to help you out, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Okay, I'm going to jump around here a little bit. Let's go to the latest on the trade deadline. So here's what I'll do from here. In regards to the NBA trade deadline, I want just everybody to know that there really isn't too much new information here, but I'm going to kind of list out all the different things that I'm seeing online, and we got about a couple of weeks left before the trade deadline. I saw something again on Herb Jones. I saw something again I mentioned yesterday about Giannis, and some of these teams are going to hold on to their assets. I saw something that I mentioned yesterday as well. Lakers looking for bargain deals, and they're trying to kind of put themselves in a position here where they're going to try to be very, very smart, intelligent. If they got to go trade one draft pick to go potentially get 2 first-rounders, then they can go shop for Herb Jones, whatever the case is. A lot of the news that I saw today was similar to the news that I've seen over the last few days or so. Here's what I will say about the trade deadline, and here's what I will say about where the Lakers are sitting today and kind of their current situation and their current predicament. Still think they're going to eventually make a move. I hesitate a little bit when it comes to the hold on to all your assets just in case Giannis says he wants to leave. And the only way that I could possibly think the Lakers would do that is if they got a little bit of inside information of Giannis has some interest in LA. Giannis has some interest in being a Laker. And if they're getting that type of information, then that's a different conversation. It's a different story. I don't think Giannis is going anywhere before the deadline. I don't think a lot of people don't think he's going anywhere before the deadline. Maybe something changes. But here's what the assumption that I will make. And I don't think it's going to be too different than the conversation that we've had. Clearly, the Lakers have some true holes that they have to address. Don't try to address something for this year. Don't try to save this season. Don't try to say, well, LeBron's in a window right now. He's 41 years old. We got to compete now. Don't make any of those decisions based off of that. Make every decision clearly just based off of the fact that you got Luka Doncic for X amount of years and Austin Reeves, and that's what all your decisions are going to be made about. But I didn't see anything different today in regards to the trade deadline coming, but that clock is ticking. And every single day that goes by, that clock gets a little bit louder. And I think that's kind of what the Lakers will be dealing with in regards to, is the price coming down on some of these players that are out there, guys that they have interest in? Is the price going up? We'll have to kind of wait and see, but there's no real surprises here around the Lakers. We know what they need. We know what they have to have. We know where, even if Austin Reeves was healthy, this isn't a good enough team defensively to go make a real playoff run. We're going to find out how much the Lakers decide they're going to put some of their chips in the table and some of them they're going to hold back. I find it very difficult to believe they won't give this roster a chance or an opportunity, but at what cost? You saw some of the reports where They want to put Vando in a deal. They want to put Gabe Vincent in a deal. They want to potentially put a first rounder in a deal, or maybe they can go get multiple first rounders. Okay, all that is good. All that is great. But the question for the Lakers is, what's it going to cost you? How much of this is for today? How much of this is going to be for tomorrow? Okay, last 5 minutes of the show or so. We're going to look at some comments. I got some NBA news. I want to kind of talk about, there were some articles being written about how the Jimmy Butler situation will affect the Golden State Warriors. What does that do to Jonathan Kuminga? And what does that do to the entire trade deadline? So we'll spend a little bit of time on that. Let's get to some of the comments here real quick. Kind of come down towards the bottom here. Next year for Giannis. Here's my problem with Giannis. My problem with Giannis is he's all over the place. That's my problem with Giannis. One day Giannis says, I would never request a trade. Other times he's giving indications that he wants out of Milwaukee. Other times the crowd in Milwaukee is booing him. He's booing them back. Like I've kind of got over the whole Giannis story, because every single day I feel like there's an article written about Giannis, or Giannis says something, and then everybody starts reacting to it. I did think the time that the Milwaukee Bucks should have traded Giannis was last summer. Now they're probably going to get, pennies to the dollar in regards to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm assuming they're going to, maybe not. I mean, if he ends up going to a team that is willing to negotiate, but here's the reality. He can walk away 1 year from this summer. He can walk away anyways. All right, let's get a couple more in here. Let's see. A lot of people hate JJ. He's okay, though, still learning. Yeah, I think there's an interesting relationship with JJ. I think, maybe some of that has to do with a lot of people didn't think that he went through the proper grind of he didn't. So here's the reality. But he was a broadcaster and then a podcaster, and then he's the coach of the Lakers. A lot of people didn't like that. Maybe people thought, he's just really, really close with LeBron, and that's why he got the job. No matter what you think about JJ Redick, he's going to get judged pretty harshly as being the Lakers head coach. So you're either going to get results or you're not. And so far, I don't think we could say that he's got no results. I think, a 50-win season and seeing what the Lakers do the rest of this year is going to say a lot, but of course, that has a lot to do with it as well. Let's see what else we have. See, would you try and get Peyton Watson from Denver? What would you give? Or Porzingis for Rui, shot blocker, and rebounder, 16 a game, expiring contract? I just have let me just give you, I'll give you my thoughts on both of these. Peyton Watson is a guy who's young enough that you feel like you can build with for the next couple of years. And they're not trading him. Granted, I think Bennett was saying that he's in a contract here. Porzingis, I think, can help you this year. But Porzingis has also had a ton of injuries, and I don't know how much Porzingis is going to be able to help you from a big picture perspective. Everything that I'm looking at with the Lakers, at least from my perspective, the only thing that I really, really pay attention to when it comes to the Lakers at this point, can you please just build for the future? That's the thing that I'm always paying attention to with the Lakers at this point. Any move that you make, can you just make sure that it's got the future in mind? Some teams are in a position where they got to win right now. Lakers, I think, clearly when they had LeBron and AD, it's like, yes, you got to win right now. Got to win right now. You're always kind of in the moment. I don't think the Lakers are in the exact same position. They do have a future beyond LeBron, and they do have a future beyond this year. All right, I got a couple things around the NBA, and then we'll call it sort of a day. I'll be back tonight, obviously, when the Lakers take on the Denver Nuggets. So we'll be doing a post-game show tonight. Here's the latest around the league. Last night, I started seeing some things on social, and it said Jimmy Butler. Immediately, you just kind of knew this can't be good. Jimmy Butler, a non-contact injury, goes down, kind of goes up for a rebound, goes down, starts holding his knee immediately. This morning, Jimmy Butler suffered a season-ending torn right ACL in Monday night's win over the Miami Heat. Interesting that happened against Miami. So Jimmy Butler in the third quarter goes down. He's out for the season. Just a awful situation for Jimmy Butler. Of course, the trickle-down effect to the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to read a quote here from Steph Curry from yesterday, which is kind of an interesting one. He said he was still cracking jokes over there while he was on the ground. In true Jimmy fashion, he's always going to have a good time no matter what the situation is. So good for Jimmy Butler to kind of do his best to maybe hide some of the pain, or that's his way of coping with it. The question now that kind of comes aboard, and I saw it on ESPN today, what now for Golden State after Jimmy Butler's injury? So Bobby Marks had kind of put something out there. And the reason why this is a question mark is because you knew the Golden State Warriors were going to be active, and you know they just asked out in Jonathan Kuminga. So the idea and the concept of what they do between now, I mean, is it, well, just give Jonathan Kuminga those minutes? Yeah, but he just requested a trade. Jonathan Kuminga wants out from the Golden State Warriors, so it kind of throws a weird wrinkle into play here. And I don't think anybody really knows what the Golden State Warriors do from now. Do they throw in the towel? Do they just say, hey, listen, we tried here over the last couple of years to try to give Steph Curry a chance of competing for a championship, and maybe those days are just done. So what their strategy is going to be from here, I have no idea. But the biggest question now is what happens with Jonathan Kuminga. And the Jonathan Kuminga piece is a big piece of kind of the rest of the domino effect that could potentially happen between now and the NBA trade deadline. So that's how quick everything can change in regards to the NBA and player strategy, and how much it can have an effect on everybody else. So unfortunately for Jimmy Butler, he suffers an ACL injury. He's out for the year. LeBron James not voted All-Star Game starter. No surprise here. And this is the kind of the right move, right? You want to put the right people that's in there. Now, I'd love to see LeBron still in the All-Star game because it's his 23rd year in the NBA, and who knows how many more years he's going to have this opportunity. But in the West, it's Steph Curry, it's Luka, who led the entire NBA in votes, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, and Victor Wembanyama. That's a dirty starting five right there. In the East, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Cade Cunningham, and Tyrese Maxey. So those are your starters. Obviously, the format this year is going to be different. What are they doing? 3 teams. They have an international team as well. So the NBA is still kind of trying to figure out how to get more attention towards the All-Star game. I was kind of finding it funny how much attention goes towards the All-Star game. It's an All-Star game. Who cares? I mean, really, people care that much? People love knocking the All-Star game. In my opinion, I'm like, it's literally an exhibition game. Who gives a flying F? Last NBA story I want to get into here real quick. Fans give the Knicks earful as struggles continue versus the Mavericks. I saw yesterday there was an article out there that the fans of the New York Knicks were booing the Knicks. They were booing the players. You know what's crazy? And I did not realize this. First off, Dallas walked into New York and won 114-97. So they dominated the Knicks. The Knicks, all of a sudden, who really, I thought them and the Cavs should be the two. That should be 1-2 in the Eastern Conference. That has not been the case. Knicks still sitting in the number 3 spot in the Eastern Conference. They're not terrible here. They've lost 4 in a row, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. What the hell's going on with the New York Knicks? Kind of surprisingly, shockingly here, they're as bad as they are. But again, they're still right in it in regards to the Eastern Conference, and we'll see if they could turn things around. Let's get another one here. Damn, I care about the All-Star game. It's not that I don't care, but it's like it's an exhibition game. Everybody makes such a big deal. I don't even think people care about watching the All-Star game. I think they just want to criticize the All-Star game. I'll watch it. I enjoy it. It's all good. But we get so upset at an exhibition game. At least the NBA is saying we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep looking for different ways to make it more interesting, and that's exactly what they're trying. Slee, all they need to do is just compete. That is how all-star games get interesting. Kobe competed all the time. I get it. I understand we want them to compete a little bit more. I would say if they give 25% more effort, maybe that takes care of everything. But I also don't need these guys slapping the ground and pressing 90 feet because it's an exhibition game. But I understand the just compete a little bit more. That part I'm with you on. Celtics and the Pistons are clearly the top of the East. I will tell you this. Yesterday, those two teams went at it. And it's funny. The first team, those midseason grades, you know who was number one on that list? The Boston Celtics. And you know what I keep saying when I say the Lakers need to build themselves some type of an identity? Go look at the way the Celtics play. They lose Jason Tatum, and they're still there every single night competing. And you got guys that I've never even heard of before the season started that are playing big minutes and they're competing. They have an identity. So that's something that I think is obviously important. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's get a couple more, and then we're going to call it a morning here. Alan, do you think the NBA should remove the salary cap? Absolutely not. No. I think you got to have guardrails here. Guys, not every market is created equal. Not every team is created equal. Not every organization is created equal. Not every ownership is created equal. Whether you have a salary cap or not, winners are going to find a way to win. Let me give you guys an example. Let's say tomorrow baseball adds a salary cap and the Dodgers can't spend the way that they've been spending now over the last handful of years. Do you know who's still going to be a really good team every single year? The Dodgers. They'll still be a good team. But what you don't want to have is these wild gaps where certain franchises have resources that other franchises just don't. Let me give you another example. Let's say the NBA. The NBA, I can pretty much tell you there's a handful of teams that I know are going to be competing every single year. They got good front offices. They know how to scout. They know how to draft. I also have a handful of teams that I could tell you every single year, they're probably going to be struggling because that's the reputation they have or that's the ownership that they have. So no, I don't think they should remove the salary cap. I think the salary cap is fine. I think the problem with the NBA is the nuances are just confusing as hell. The aprons and the second apron and all that stuff. Everything, there isn't a more simplistic way of doing it. At least as of right now, there isn't. So I've said this before. I do think new ownership will have a tremendous impact on this Lakers team with a salary cap. I think they're going to make the organization just a ton better. I do believe that. Might take a year or two, but I think they're going to be more. I think they're going to be more competitive, more consistent, and kind of have a longer term plan where it feels like the Lakers are always just worried about today and they got no plan about tomorrow. So I do think that's going to change. All right. Let's see what else we have here. I think we're done. Fun show today. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to Bennett for coming on, who covers the Denver Nuggets. So shout out to him for joining the show. I appreciate him doing that. I'm going to be back on tonight after the Lakers take on the Denver Nuggets. So please be a part of that post-game show. Thank you again for being here. And I will see you guys tonight. See if the Lakers can get a W at Denver. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your morning.